Welcome back. In this lesson, I'm going to be teaching you how to use some selection tools in Adobe Photoshop. So let's dive straight into it. Let's say something like a black. So let's try something out. If you observe the way they are arranged, okay, so this seems to be on top, right? That is it there, followed by this. If you observe, when I click this is highlighted. When I click this is highlighted. So let's say I could just click this, double click, call it rec1, that's rectangle 1. Click this, double click, call it rec2. Then click this, double click, call it rec3. We get the idea. So that is that basically. So I will just move that to trash can. Then let's move on to the next selection. How does this work? We have the rectangular selection, the elliptical, the single row Marquee, and your single column. Let's say I want to select this part of the image. Let's say I just draw with this tool, and that's that. So I could just first of all unlock by double clicking here. I could just hit my Ctrl C, click that off, Ctrl C, Ctrl V. And guess what? If I turn this layer below off, I have that layer that was selected. Turn it off again. Let's try right click to have other options. I hit my elliptical, probably hold my shift depending. Of course, it's not covering where I want. So the way this works is if I want to move this to place, I should come in, not out. If you observe, my pointer changes, then I could just move this in place. Not good enough, but at least now make sure the layer you are drawing on is the layer of interest. Of course, this is not the layer of interest, so come back here, which is this layer here. Make sure it's active. Ctrl C, Ctrl V. And guess what? I have that there. I turn it off again. So we have other options. Same thing works for all. Let's move on to our lasso tool. Now the way the lasso tool works, it's like trying to select, should I call it freehand, so to say, freehand, like so as if you're drawing. Let's say I want to select around his head. I could just click, don't leave the left mouse button, click and drag, and maybe when I'm done, I leave my hand off it. Make sure the layer of interest is on, click there, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and guess what? I have this. Okay, so get that off, put this back on. I have the Polygonal Lasso tool. This draws like in form of a straight line. So I can click here. Maybe I want to draw a polygon, click there, click there, click there, click here, and click there. Guess what? We have a selection like so. Make sure your layer of interest is on. Ctrl C, Ctrl V, turn this off, and then I have this. So let's move on. I think, when I started my design career, I love this magnetic lasso tool, but along the way, I discovered that there's a better tool, which is the pen tool. I think we'll go into that later on in the course of this class. So the pen tool doesn't work. Of course, make sure your foreground and your background has a bit of a contrast or a huge contrast. And what's your foreground? Your foreground is your object that's in focus, which is this man looking at his should I say iPad. Of course, this was the image we used in this design. Okay, so what you just need to do is maybe zoom in a bit, pan, we've looked at this before, and click and just be moving your hand. I'm not clicking and dragging, take note. You can click time to time to add anchor point, but just keep moving carefully. I really love this tool. Of course, the contrast there is poor because they are quite bright colors. But I will not be so precise. You can be so careful. But with time, you understand that this is not a good approach for selecting. It might do a good job at times, but yeah, hope you get the idea. So you got to be slow. You could be clicking time to time, then you move, and you click. I have a selection there. You come again, make sure your layer of interest is selected, click it, Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Guess what? Okay. Here, so we have his head there. Not the best of selection. Yeah, so 2019, when I began my design career, I remember I loved this way of selection. But let me tell you, there's a better way, which I will not really discuss much, but I'll just introduce you to it. And we are going there, which is the object selection, quick selection, and the magic wand tool. Okay, so how does this work? Ctrl 0 for zoom extent. Now when you click any of this, we have object selection. All you need to do is just drag across and let Photoshop do its thing. Yeah, as I said, not the best of its kind, but if you observe, look at the glasses and having some issues. Of course, this is not still the best, but you could still correct this by coming here to subtract or add selection, and you could just, okay, that might not work here, but of course we're just trying to look at the options available for selection, and I will show you which is the best. So still right click, we have the quick selection. So Ctrl D to deselect. When you select, Ctrl D to deselect so that I can make another selection. We have the quick selection. Now the quick selection is used for selecting your foreground. So I could just drag in my foreground like so. Let's see. Okay, I think there's an error here. We'll make sure you are in your. Yeah, sometimes you might have the issue where you are in your add selection or subtract. So click this here and let's drag across. You see, it's very good in selecting foreground. Just click like so and I'm good to go. Okay, so at the same time, this might work for some kind of pictures. Okay, but it's just for you to master them. Of course, I'm having some issues there, so I could come to my subtract and just hover there, and let's see, it's not so bad. Add, I would love to add these parts. I don't know. Okay, let's just say this is manageable for instance, and I do my Ctrl C, Ctrl V. I turn this off. Of course, it didn't do a good job. I didn't see that coming anyways. So let's say, oh, okay, so we could just still add up. Of course, this is clicked. This is not still the best, but manageable. Hope you get the idea. So Ctrl D, another is a magic wand. The magic wand is used for selecting your background. Okay, while a quick selection is used for selecting your foreground. So let's say I have this background, of course not totally white, but if I click once, it will do its thing. We're having issues here because let's say the background is white and my foreground is white. Alright, so let's try that on this image and see. Okay, so if you look at this image carefully, the background, which is this white, is has a great contrast with the foreground. So all we need to do is to come here, magic wand, as I said, use it on the background. So I click once, not a perfect selection, but I think it did quite a good job, and I could just do my Ctrl C, Ctrl V as usual, and then of course it selected the background. So if you want to really select the foreground, all you need to do is to come to select, go to inverse selection. So right now the foreground selected. Take note, when we use the quick selection, we selected the foreground directly. So when we did Ctrl C, Ctrl V, all we got was our main subject. But when you click this, as I said, what you're selecting is your background. So on doing that, we needed to, inverse. Inverse means it's going to select our subject, and that should give us what we're looking for. And then we have her there. Okay, this is a new selection. Okay, so that is that for that. Then finally, okay, before we draw the curtain at this point, there's a selection that it's so great, it's so nice. It's, I think, from Photoshop 2020 upwards. It's this select subject. All you need to do is click the layer. When you click any of this here, you have your select subject. I love doing that on the quick selection. Click your select subject and leave Photoshop to do its thing. All right. Okay, it's done, and then it did quite a good job. I think later in the course, when we are going to be designing this flyer, there was a faster way route I used to get this selection off. Okay, we corrected it with this, and here I click this button here. We subtracted by clicking this. Anyways, we are still at the beginner phase of this course, so I hope you are having fun and you're understanding how the selection tools work. So see you in the next video. Thank you.